The sun could be everywhere. The third is deceit. So try and see, who had reformer? Anyone see themselves as reformer? Someone said, was that you?
No, you said I was a 4 and an 8.
Oh no, I'm just saying what I sense in you. But what did you? I definitely think that you're an individualist. But
I thought I was helper and loyalist.
Okay. Do you think that you have pride? Is that something that that takes the better part of you?
Yeah, to an extent. And just like you were saying before, I'm very outspoken. So I guess I like to hide in the shower and then come out.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, prideful. Yeah, because I like to be seen like smart and like that I'm doing something the right way.
Okay.
So I guess, yeah.
Okay. And that could also be a little bit of reformer with perfectionist.
Yeah,
You're
definitely
doing
that.
the right way. Okay.
Yeah.
And there can be some anger around doing things incorrectly or if things don't go the right way.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, mind you, these are overlapping. This is not set in stone. This is not black and white. Okay. 4 is envy.
No, I'm talking about deceit.
Oh, how do you feel about deceit?
Yeah.
Can you see yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel deceptive?
I always like put a mask on, and the truth is very hard for me to say. Like I'm truthful, but it's because I'm so secretive about everything. So I just put a mask on, and it's just very hard.
And it could also be deceit, like you're saying that you're withholding truth.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be that you're lying,
Yeah.
but it could be withholding the truth. I had a friend who used to say silly things like I'm going to CVS when he was going to Walgreens. You know, things like that. Those are also forms of being deceptive. Or I'm not telling you, and I would say this about my ex-husband, I would call it hiding the Excel spreadsheet columns. You know, like in Excel, you can hide the columns. I would be like, you're hiding the columns again. You're hiding the Excel spreadsheet columns. Like, why are you hiding the column? Just show.
It's like concealing.
Right, it's like a concealing. You know, and he'd be like, oh, I'm not lying. I'm just hiding the columns, you know. Well, that's a form of deceit. 5 is avarice.
This is a great one.
6 is fear. So remember we were talking about like if you know that you have fear versus, let's say, courage. 7 is a gluttony. 8 is lust. And 9 is sloth. I could see that. I'm lazy as shit. I am so lazy. Yesterday I was going to go to yoga. I didn't make it. But I will go tomorrow.
Clothes are comfy though.
What?
The yoga clothes are comfy though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I have so much yoga clothes. I used to be a yoga teacher.
And the only thing that she wanted to do is just fall asleep.
Yeah, Shavasana. That's definitely true. I'm just so out of shape. Okay. Now, what are the virtues? So now what you're going to notice, 0 to 100 people, you want to listen. So for instance, you have a client that says, I'm lazy as shit. That is self-effacing. There you hear a peacemaker. If I tell you that action is opposite of lazy, that person who is go, 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 and when I get into a mode that I am on, and nothing stops me. There's a reason I have 4 degrees, there's a reason that I was a marathoner, there's a reason that people tell me, oh my God, you're so strong, and da 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 da, and now I've gone the whole other extreme. So like, I'm paralyzed. Behaviors go from 0 to 100. And that's how your clients are. So you want to listen for what they're doing. It is 0 to 100. And even though it's a virtue, if they're doing it in a way that is hurting them because it's all or none behavior, you're going to pick up on it and you're going to say, wait a minute, let's move you to a little bit more of a balance. So what good is it if now I start going to yoga or running or doing, you know, aerobics or whatever 7 days a week?
Start combating the lazy.
But is that good behavior? Is that effective?
No, because
As
you
a
go from
client,
one extreme to the other.
it's total extreme behavior. It's action, which is the virtue.
There's no balance.
But where's the balance? We need our clients to reach a 48 to 52. So if you listen either way to clients, you need to pick up on, are they doing one extreme, or are they doing the other extreme? Okay? So, what happens when someone is so serene? Oh.
You want to slap them.
So you want to slap them. You so, it's such bullshit. Okay, so I was married to this man who was so calm and serene all the time. And I used to say to him, show me the Cuban man that lives inside of you. I know there's a Cuban man that lives inside of you. And Cuban man meaning the passion, the anger, there's got to be something in there. Because you can't just be just calm and serene all the freaking time. Bullshit.
You're hiding what you truly feel.
Exactly. There's a mask on any one of these. This is a balance of these two things is what you need to get your client to express. For really healthy expression of what they are. So if someone is saying, oh, it's okay. Oh, he cheated. Oh, the whole world blew up. Oh, my car crashed. And they're all, oh, I don't care how much freaking meditation you have done. I do not care how much gratitude journaling you have done. Come on now, people. Come on now. Something has to be expressed. Some level of some anger, some level of something. Now, granted, if you have trained, if you have some level of mindfulness, then granted, and you're going to know this with your client if they've been practicing Buddhist meditation for the past 20 years. So there's this funny story where this guy goes, and some of it's in Spanish, but I'll say it. So this guy goes to practice Buddhist meditation in Tibet for like 20 years. And he comes back to the States and he's all calm and he runs into his friend from Hialeah. And he's like, oh, hey, compadre, how are you? And he's like, oh, I'm so calm. I was practicing, you know, in the mountains, the Himalayas for 25 years. And he's like, oh, please, you're the same guy you've always been. He's like, no, 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 I'm super calm now. I'm all zen and whatever. And he's like, hey, please, brother, you're the same. You're the same guy you've always been. He goes, no, 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 I'm Mr. Zen. And he goes, no, mijo, you're the same. Come on, mijo, get to the other. And he's like, I told you So, you know, even if you've have a client who's been practicing, you know, Zen Buddhism in the mountains of the Himalayas or wherever.
It's like, that's like at home and at my house where I'm like,
stop yelling! Exactly. Do as I say, not as I do.
why are you yelling, Tom?
I always say that. Do as I say, not as I do.
So, and then we'll do as we do, because that's just what they're copying, especially the subconscious is mirroring everything that we do. So we have to kind of see these extremes of these behaviors. Second is humility. So I had this client, and he comes to my house, and he's in this beat up car, and he's a tall man, very, very thin. His clothes is all ripped up, and he's Mr. Ohm, and he sits down, and I'm like, oh my God, you just want to make money. No, not me. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Like, you want to rake it in. No, no, no. I'm Mr. Ayurveda. I'm Mr. India. I've studied with the masters. I'm like, I don't care who you studied with. My guides are telling me that what you want is cha-ching. So after a while of talking, he finally admits it. He's like, yeah, I'm sick and tired of living this shit, this paycheck to paycheck. Like, I want to have money. Like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, that's the thing. You're not admitting that you want, you're living in this humility, in this humble sort of thing, when really what you want is to have wealth. So it's about time that you start living like, what is this with this beat up car and this clothes with holes? Like, live like nice, like come on now. But if you put on this mask of this humility or this extreme, not only do you start to believe it, but you don't achieve that other side. But if you start seeing clients that are that extreme, and those are the nonverbals that your clients are going to share with you when they come into your office. So when you see that level of humility, just like if you see a level of avarice, you're going to be able to pick up on some of these personality traits. You're going to know that this is part of the story, that there's something there. You know, it's just like when I see people that are dressed to the nines. There's some story there. These details are part of the story, you know? So asking about these things or looking at them. Sometimes I like, and I've said this before, I like to be online or over the phone where I'm not, you know, having so many of these nonverbals, but the nonverbal cues are really telling in, you know, seeing if there's a congruence. I like thin crust, you know, with these clients. Are they telling you something, but is their physical appearance or is their nonverbal telling you something different? Third is truthfulness. So we know, as Aniela said, that there is a level of truth and that there is a level of confidence, and there is probably in your research. As a clinician and as an academician, she's going to want to get to, and that's part of the investigator, she's going to want to get to a level of truth in your research, you know, as a PsyD and as an academician and researching whatever, you know, she ends up studying.
It also is a level of concealment.
Of course, but that's more of that deceit. But you're going to want to get to this level of truth. Now that might be how you express it. It might be in research how she expresses her truthfulness, because there's a difficulty in the personality, especially if there has been danger as an expression of truth. And that's something that you can find out from a client. Has been telling the truth, has it been dangerous? Has truth-telling been dangerous? Has being humble been dangerous? Has being lazy been dangerous? For me, when I was younger, being lazy would have been dangerous. I had to be on the move. No, seriously. As a fight or flight response, it would have been a dangerous thing. I had to be with one eye open. My first marriage, it was dangerous for me to not constantly be like on the go. I mean, I moved 3 times last year. Like, being on the go, go, was a defense mechanism. Now, this year, I've said, wait a minute. I don't need to do that. Now, I have to be careful not to go to the other extreme of not doing anything, and it's finding that middle ground. But that's a question that when you use this tool, you can ask your client, is telling the truth dangerous? Or where has there been a situation where telling the truth has been dangerous?
Yeah, I can think about it when I was a kid.
Think about it. There has to be. There has to be. So that's another way that you can use this tool to formulate a question. Yes?
I'm going to use my psychology on you.
Okay.
Since you said about the whole, you moved 3 times, could you have been maybe running away from the problem?
Definitely.
Not wanting maybe to even accept it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Movement.
Yeah.
Movement is absolutely a form of running away. That's part of my enthusiast, that's part of my challenger part. Absolutely. My reformer,
And
I have that.
You don't like confrontation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah,
I don't like to confront, but I also not only confront the person, because there was no one to confront.
No, yeah.
I didn't want to confront my own
situation.
being.
Yeah.
That was part of my grief, was I didn't want to confront my own being to say, I have to accept this.
Right.
So yes, it could have been. In my case, it was a lot more, I think, of finding a home that felt like home.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel grounded, and I didn't feel stable, which is something that, if you know mythology, the opposite planet of Neptune is Saturn, and this is a planet that's not grounded, and the planet of groundedness is Saturn. So in mythology, it makes a lot of sense that I was trying to find something grounding, and I wasn't grounded.
So
but that's a very great
to
observation.
You?
What was that?
What happened to you for it to be?
Ironically, when I was a little girl, talk about
Yeah.
a pool, talk about the actual symbolism of water. When I was a little girl, I told you I belonged to this cult,
Yeah.
and the son of the cult leader, myself and this other girl, polluted the pool of the neighbor. We took a bunch of junk and we polluted the pool of the neighbor. And I got in trouble and I was dethroned. I was told that I wasn't going to be able to participate in the special activities of the cult. And talk about using the pool, the water, the element of water, which is the peacemaker. So I was no longer the peacemaker. I was no longer the special kid. I was now one of the masses. So I've worked my whole life to try to be special. But as a result, I read this once, and when I read it, I was like, wow, it really dawned on me. I was so behind, I thought I was first. When I read that, I was like, wow, that's been my whole life. And it really affected me. And I know that that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I was about, I think, 10 years old, 9 or 10. That, coupled with my grandmother dying, and I was told that I didn't know how to grieve. I was told I didn't cry, and that was wrong. So.
I was told that by my mom when my dad died, because I was still like confused. I didn't accept her. Yeah.
So we always have something, and I'm sure that there were other things. I had abuse, and I had, of course, just the cult thing in itself, being told I was special, and I was watching, I think I told you guys the other day, I was watching this video on cults and getting out of cults and cult recovery, and I was like, textbook. Everything about growing up in a cult, like it was textbook. It was crazy. I was listening to this video, and I was like, wow. 4, equanimity. So being balanced, very difficult when you have envy and you just kind of want more and more and more. 5 is non-attachment. 6 is courage. And And that book that I passed around talks about the two extremes for each one. 7 is sobriety. You know, this one was really important to me. This one really was interesting. When I learned about this, that sobriety was the opposite of gluttony, that to me was a real interesting thing. Because having had an eating disorder and a weight issue my whole life, gluttony had been a big issue in my life. And having always attracted alcoholics as partners, when I realized that those were sides of the coin, I was like flabbergasted.
Yeah.
It made so much sense. I was like, oh my God, no wonder I attract. So having not been someone who was an addict, I don't have an addictive personality, my parents aren't addicts, we don't drink, we don't do drugs, I didn't grow up in this thing, how come I was always attracting these addicts? As a therapist, I kind of had to break this down, and when I learned this, it was through this tool, when I learned that sobriety was the opposite of the gluttony, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense with the weight issues, how I was the opposite side of the coin for that. That to me was a big one. Innocence for 8, and action for peacemaking. Any questions on that? How are we on time?
It's 10:30.
Okay, so we have something to do at 11. I'm just going to go through the different grieving, and then we're going across the hall. But I want to talk about the different grieving styles. So I highly recommend that each of you do your Enneagram and take the test and kind of just see what you are. But this is an important tool if you want to have, you know, you can see with your clients from 0 to 100, you can see where they are and where you can help take them to a middle ground. So how does the perfectionist reformer grieve? What do you think that they would need for grieving? How do you think they would at times of loss and grief? What do you think they would want?
The checklist.
Yes, absolutely. Very clear directions
Checklist.
and guidelines on how to make, on making decisions. They want to know specific steps to take. Ones want openness to questioning the process. In grieving, it is vital to allow forgiveness, release into love. Remember, anger is their passion, and acceptance in the moment. Realizing there is no one right way, and inspire others with acceptance and non-judgmentalness. But they want clear directions and guidelines. So, as a counselor, you might give them the stages of grief. You might explain to them how they're going to grieve, or explain to them about Kubler-Ross, or give them a handout, or give them something to read. How would the giver or the helper grieve? What would they want? Think about what they do for others. Think about how they're giving would be what most people would want to receive. What would you want, Mr. Pachi?
I don't know, two. The helper would want to keep helping, would want to make others be comfortable at the same time that you're grieving.
We have like a gathering, having gatherings?
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
I would
Be
think
with
so.
other people.
Be with other people that can help them grieve as much as
Right.
they help the
So
others
it's
grieve.
reciprocal.
So the support of others. So twos want the support of others, approval of others on deciding a course of action. They want to protect the well-being of people close to them, so of course caring about what others are wanting to do. They want to assure connection with loved ones and want to be needed, helpful provider. So they're still going to want to provide care for others because it's natural in their personality. What about the performer or the achiever?
They're either gonna want the whole entire truth, black and white, or they're just gonna want you to not tell them anything at all.
Okay, tasks. Get down to business.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very boom, boom, boom.
Tell me what to do.
Tell me what to do.
That's why I got so mad when they
You're
didn't
just
tell me
going
my
off
friend
of
died.
that process.
That's why what?
I got so mad when my friends didn't tell me my other
Right.
friend died, because I didn't do
Oh.
anything.
So I
Did you hear that?
don't even think, I wasn't even really saying it in task-wise. I'm saying just information-wise, if you're.
Okay, and that's what
Me.
she's saying.
Me.
Her
totally.
Oh, right,
friend,
information.
her
right.
friend died and her other friends didn't even tell her. So just providing information.
Yeah, well, yeah, see, even with that too, that's even a whole entire aspect. I'm even saying like, for instance, in a patient's room, this was probably one of my, not that I can really show it, but it's probably one of my favorites, one of my favorite subjects that we've been in on this. I find that process like one of the most interesting things. When I did palliative care nursing, I was able to like completely depict everybody on what roles they played in the family. And I just hung out for like 10-15 minutes and just seeing what everybody needed, but then you'll see the dynamic on everybody's faces and who's the rock, who's the helper, who's the one that's like complete denial, who's the one that's like the stages of grief. You can see it in everybody's face if you just pay attention. So what I definitely noticed is on this one, when you said the truthfulness and the deceit, it's either that they want all the information and they want it like black and white, don't sugarcoat it or anything, or they're like, the least that you tell me, the better that we're all gonna be, I promise.
Right.
So and then,
And that would also be for someone who has a diagnosis.
yeah,
That they don't want
Absolutely.
the diagnosis, they want to be sugar-coated as to
Absolutely.
what their
That's
illness
not me.
is.
Right, that's not me.
Well, you would want it
Yeah.
straight up, like the infertility.
Hmm.
You're not having kids,
Yeah.
and they've told you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, my doctor
Absolutely.
was straightforward, and I was like, thank you for
But-
being straightforward.
yeah, and she was kept in the dark when her friend died. And it was very, very difficult for her to not be able to have that information. So absolutely. What about the individualist? Envy and equanimity. If they want balance, or the high end of it is balance, what would they want in terms of emotion?
They give something and get something in return.
Yeah, some emotional connection.
Reciprocate.
Not too much, not too little, but Goldilocks, just right.
That one is a hard one.
So in times of distress and loss, fours want does that mean?
Yeah.
Quality of emotional connection. I just want to make sure it's not the document. Quality of emotional connection, want what seems to be missing in the process, want special recognition, often unconsciously, that's the envy, and want others to express their feelings. In grieving, fours need to focus on what is present and positive in the process, allow for a sense of gratitude, that makes sense with the envy, Realize that a sense of wholeness and love comes from experience what is in the flow of life. Show the possibilities life offers in all circumstances, and communicate heartfelt feelings. So that emotional connection is super important. Because remember, this is somewhat of a hoardingness. And this individualist is me, me, me. It's also that self-referential type. What about the investigator?